Tatsumi Kyo spent a fortune on a game, then woke up inside it. He blinks and realizes his vision is completely blocked by the chest of a blonde fairy clinging to him. She beams down at him, eyes sparkling, and announces, without hesitation, that he's been chosen to save the world. He hasn't even had time to sit up when the doors burst open. A man storms into the room like he owns it. He barely looks at Kyo before declaring that Runa belongs to him now, and that there's nothing anyone can do about it. Kyo's breath catches. It's his sister, alive, armored, standing inside the game. The man cracks his knuckles and gives him two options: agree or refuse. Either way, he says the Tatsumi family should be grateful he's even offering a choice. Resistance would only make things worse. Kyo finally looks at him, like an ant. The tension snaps. Gao doesn't wait for an answer. Flames explode from his fists as he charges forward, laughing, already convinced this is over. Kyo doesn't move. The fire slams into him and vanishes the moment it touches the invisible pressure surrounding his body. The sudden recoil sends Gao flying backward. Silence crashes down on the room. Kyo looks at him calmly and says, flatly, that he's in a very bad mood. Before any of this, Tatsumi Kyo's world was nothing more than a glowing screen. Born into a prestigious family worth billions, he lived surrounded by money, freedom, and zero consequences. But beneath the luxury sat a terminal illness, quietly counting down his remaining days. With only 3 months left and no interest in redemption or bucket lists, Kyo poured everything into one final obsession, reaching an impossible tier in Divine Fantasy Chronicle, a level no amount of money or effort had ever unlocked. After endless nights, sleepless marathons, and obscene spending, the mission cleared and history bent in his favor. Moments later, as sunlight crept in and his sister rushed to his side, his body gave out completely. When he opened his eyes again, the world he knew was gone. Floating islands, mythical creatures, and a blonde goddess clinging to him like they were old friends. As the shock settled in, the truth hit. This place was identical to Divine Fantasy Chronicle. The goddess revealed herself as Fu, the same enhancement merchant who had drained his fortune back in the game. When Kyo doubted it was real, she kicked him in the face. The pain answered everything. Fu explained it simply. By clearing a hidden mission no one else could reach, Kyo triggered a resurrection reward tied to the system itself. Power in this world scales with spending, and Kyo spent too much. The backlash forced him into the game in a weakened state. His bonuses and gear still exist, but his level was reset as punishment for abusing the system. Back in the room, panic replaces arrogance as the man stumbles backward, screaming for his minions. They move together. One draws power, another channels energy, green and razor sharp, cutting through the air with killing force. They think numbers matter. They think momentum is on their side. He steps forward anyway. Inside his head, they are nothing but NPCs. Blue light surges as his artifact awakens. Fang of Oblivion, level 5. The blade sings as it moves, cutting, ripping through the battlefield like a flash of judgment. Everything in front of him is erased from relevance. And when the dust settles, he doesn't look impressed. When it's over, Kyo stands alone amid the dust and silence, completely unbothered. Before Kyo can even savor the aftermath, the door slams open. Someone stumbles in, breathless, already panicking. Their eyes lock onto the bodies on the floor, and the spiral begins instantly. Rambling, frantic, insisting everything needs to be cleaned up now, before anyone notices, before this turns irreversible. Kyo exhales. That face. Too familiar. Another fragment of his old life, standing right here like the world didn't reset at all. Miss Toki made it here too. She rushes forward, voice shaking, convinced they were helpless, exposed, seconds from disaster. Before anyone can react, she pulls Kyo and Runa into a crushing hug, clinging hard, relief spilling out violently. Kyo struggles for air, mentally begging her to relax. They're fine. Everyone's fine. Eventually, she lets go. Runa recovers instantly. She points out the real problem, the Izumi family. If news spreads, retaliation isn't a question. It's guaranteed. Miss Toki agrees at once. Waiting only makes it worse. Her voice drops as she looks at Kyo, worry creeping in. She knows how dangerous the Izumis are. What she doesn't know is how strong he is right now. Kyo pauses. Ranks line up in his head. Skilled, elite, legendary. Izumigo sits comfortably and skilled. Then he looks at himself. The small green indicator floating above his head answers clearly. Entry level. Below apprentice. Barely anything. Shock hits Miss Toki immediately. Kyo just nods. No point hiding it. She snaps into action, protective instinct kicking in. They need to leave now. She'll stay behind if she has to, delay them. Kyo stops her. Calm. Certain. Stats don't matter that much. Gear does. Against level 3 enemies, he's not worried. To prove it, he pulls out 2 books. Miss Toki recoils instantly. Books are clearly not her domain. Just holding it looks painful. Runa takes the other without hesitation. She wants strength of her own, but the moment she opens it, she freezes. Her face turns red, then hotter. The illustrations are bold, the techniques worse, and the title seals it, Divine Charm Arts. Humiliation floods her expression. Kyo notices and quietly takes it back. No teasing. Some skills can wait. He decides she'll train something more normal. Still, a reluctant thought lingers. Maybe learning a bit wouldn't hurt. Miss Toki suddenly lights up. She's already tested the breathing technique from her book. The effect is immediate. Her body feels tougher, as expected. System items don't miss. Kyo flips his own book, then stops. Locked. Only chapter 1. The system never changes. Fu watches nearby, amused. Level up or stay denied. She knows exactly how much he hates being denied information and makes it clear that progress and leveling are the only way forward. Before long, Kyo finds himself relocated to Izumo Lake, sitting alone with a fishing rod and bait in hand. The mission sinks in, fish all day, for a rookie material, and the target, a golden scale king's liver, which is level 4. He needs to do this if he wants to open the second chapter of his book. Absurd. Fu offers zero sympathy. Kyo exhales, already missing the comfort of pay-to-win grinding back home. He relaxes. This is familiar territory. He farmed this quest endlessly back then, earned the title Night King for a reason. Mechanics, patterns, exploits, all memorized. He scatters bait across the lake, flooding it, overwhelming the normal fish, then casts a special lure with perfect timing. Seconds pass, the rod jerks violently, the water erupts. Something massive bursts upward in a spray of light, scales glittering, and it's not a fish, it's a woman, a mermaid queen, radiant and regal, spiraling through the air like a premium summon. Kyo stares upward, still gripping the rod. The hook is set. She's still attached. This wasn't a routine grind. This was trouble. The mermaid introduces herself with calm grace, voice gentle, posture refined. She thanks him sincerely, bowing her head with genuine gratitude, treating what just happened as an act of salvation. Kyo doesn't react. No warmth, no pride, no acknowledgement beyond a bored glance. To him, this wasn't heroism. It was fishing. She just happened to be on the hook. The indifference doesn't discourage her. She explains anyway. She'd been captured long ago, imprisoned beneath Izumo Lake, her power sealed, escape impossible. The enemies who trapped her made sure of that. But when Kyo flooded the lake with bait, she fed on it, recovering just enough strength to shatter the seal and break free. Kyo exhales slowly. Irritation creeps in. The bait. She ate the bait. He searches his memory immediately. Side quests, hidden events, special encounters, anything involving a sealed mermaid in Izumo Lake. Nothing. This scenario never existed. Nearby, Fu watches a knowing smile, clearly amused. This world still has layers he hasn't touched yet. Kyo adapts instantly. If this is a new event, then there should be compensation. He studies the mermaid directly and makes his expectation clear. He wants something practical, assistance, preferably help catching the golden scale king he came here for. Embarrassment flashes across her face. Returning to the lake would be dangerous. Worse, she already consumed the bait meant for that mission. Still, she straightens and promises earnestly she will never forget this kindness. Even if she can't repay him now, she swears she will someday. Kyo isn't impressed. Someday doesn't level him up. He turns away, already done with the conversation. From his perspective, having someone follow him around, especially a woman, is just unnecessary complication. That's when she leans in. Soft lips press against his. Kyo freezes, mind blank, heart stuttering. She pulls back with a playful smile, satisfied, no words needed. The mark is set. She'll find him again, wherever he goes. Shock turns into suspicion instantly. Kyo recoils, irritation flaring. Whatever this is, it's gone too far. The mermaid laughs lightly, unfazed. She prepares to leave, then hesitates. There's a problem. She has nothing suitable to wear on land. Traveling like this isn't an option. Reluctantly, Kyo pulls clothes from his item bag and hands them over. She changes quickly, gratitude sincere. Before leaving, she promises once more to return and repay him properly. Left alone, Kyo stares at the lake and sighs. Preparing special bait again would take too long. Waiting isn't viable. He needs another method. Elsewhere, chaos erupts in a rocky canyon. A massive demon beast corners two adventurers, a desperate man and a terrified woman. Panic grips them as the creature advances. This is Izumo territory, Gutsy's domain. A monster like this shouldn't exist here. Then a calm voice echoes from above. They look up. Standing casually at the cliff's edge is Kyo, gazing down at the beast like it's mildly interesting. He steps off. The adventurers freeze as he descends effortlessly, assuming he's flying. Only a level 4 master, or higher, could do that. Hope surges. The beast gathers all its energy and fires straight at him. Kyo meets it head-on without fear. A massive explosion tears across the canyon. The adventurers are left speechless. They assume he sacrificed himself for them. Then Kyo walks out of the smoke, casually stretching. He notes a faint faint tingling in his legs from the jump, as if the fall was only a mild inconvenience. The man stares in disbelief, struggling to understand who this person is and what just happened to the demon wolf. Kyo gestures lazily behind him. The once terrifying beast is playing dead. He tilts his head and lightly threatens it, just to test the reaction. Instantly, the demon wolf springs up, tail wagging furiously, completely tamed. Amused, Kyo mounts the creature without hesitation. With a satisfied grin, he rides off, leaving the two adventurers frozen in place, unable to process the absurdity they just witnessed. Deep within a dense forest, birds scatter and wolves retreat as Kyo's mount skids to a halt beneath towering trees. At the heart of the forest stands the king of beasts, an enormous white tiger radiating divine pressure so intense the forest itself seems to bow. The tiger already knows of him. The demon wolf talked. It waits, curious to hear what a mere human apprentice could possibly want. Lesser creatures tremble, terrified Kyo might offend the living legend. Kyo remains calm, respectful even. He recognizes the tiger as a divine ruler shaped by countless lives and battles. Then, completely unfazed by the crushing aura, he makes a simple connection. Tigers are cats. Cats like fish. He looks the king of beasts in the eye and makes his request. He wants Piasa, the divine ruler of the forest, to go catch some fish for him, like a good kitty. The forest goes silent. Disbelief twists into fury. Divine pressure detonates outward. And in a single sentence, Kyo manages to offend a god-tier beast so thoroughly that the entire forest feels it. Piasa's voice rolls through the forest, low and venomous, mocking Kyo for daring to speak so casually, demanding he repeat what he just said. Kyo doesn't flinch. He stands there in his loose white robe, hands relaxed, gaze steady, treating the towering beast in front of him like a mild inconvenience rather than a death sentence. He casually covers his nose and tells Piasa to calm down. All he needs is help catching fish, and while he's at it, he adds, almost thoughtfully, that Piasa's breath smells terrible. Blue-white fury detonates. Piasa explodes forward, wings flaring wide, fangs bared, eyes burning like frozen stars. He accuses Kyo of getting cocky just because he thinks he's strong. The forest fractures under the pressure, earth-shattering, wind-slicing, as the divine beast descends like judgment itself, claws crashing down with killing intent. Kyo moves at the final instant. He slips inside the strike with surgical precision, timing flawless and counters in one clean motion. The impact travels deep through Piasa's colossal frame, force rippling through muscle and bone before staggering him backward. Shock flashes across the tiger's face. He accuses Kyo of hiding his strength, then admits it openly. He's been successfully rage-baited. Something cracks. A fang falls into Kyo's hand. Kyo tilts his head, examining it with mild curiosity, then asks calmly if Piasa feels better now that his fang is broken. The pain comes late, sharp, pulsing, blinding, and then gone. Piasa clenches what remains of his teeth, realizing with creeping disbelief that the ancient toothache he'd endured for ages has vanished with the shattered fang. Relief floods in, followed immediately by dread. That strike wasn't probing, it was lethal tear. This human didn't miscalculate, he chose not to kill. Piasa roars, demanding answers, demanding to know what Kyo really wants. Kyo answers without raising his voice. If Piasa wants a real fight, they'll have one, properly. No tricks, no baiting. But he makes one thing clear, he didn't come here to kill him, he came for fish. That's it. Piasa studies him again, really looks this time, and something heavy settles in his chest. He exhales and agrees to help, accepting it as repayment for the pain Kyo relieved. He turns, explaining that the forest offers the closest shortcut to Zuneko Lake. Kyo nods once. They walk beneath the dim blue canopy as though the clash never happened. Piasa keeps it simple. Cut through the forest, reach the back of the lake, catch the fish, and leave. No trouble. Kyo listens, then slows. Something feels off. He frowns slightly, muttering that he doesn't remember a path here leading to the lake. The thought fades almost as quickly as it forms, and he shrugs. Then the forest turns hostile. Green light ignites beneath his feet as thorn vines explode from the earth, coiling around his legs and yanking him violently upward. He twists midair to avoid a lethal strike as more vines spear toward him. Piasa's voice cuts through the chaos, sharp and mocking. Stop resisting. It's useless. He admits it plainly. This is an ancient formation, powerful enough to restrain even a mountain king. And Kyo, despite everything, is still human, or so he believed. Kyo lands lightly, brushing dirt from his sleeve. He asks, almost conversationally, how many times he has to repeat himself. Then he mentions his title, Super Formation Master, and wonders if that changes anything. It does. Red light floods the clearing as Kyo stops fighting the vines and instead activates the formation's core itself. The air shrieks as energy reverses direction. He explains calmly, Every formation has structure, but they all share one fatal weakness: a core. Destroy it, and the rest collapses. Piazza demands to know what he's doing. Kyo doesn't respond. He turns toward a nearby tree and states simply that it must be the core. An energy beam fires. The forest detonates. Vines shatter like brittle glass as the magic implodes inward before vanishing entirely. The restraints crumble into dust around Kyo's feet. And then he sees her. Through thinning smoke stands a tall woman, sharp-eyed, beast-like ears angled high, wings folded behind her like living blades. She exhales softly, commenting that her head almost got crushed just now, and thanks Kyo sincerely. Without him, she would have remained sealed for centuries. Piazza recoils like he's seen a ghost. Kyo glances at him, confused, asking casually if she's an enemy. He doesn't get an answer. Piazza lunges forward, voice breaking as he cries out, "Mother!" He's swatted aside instantly, slammed face first into the earth by a single dismissive wing. She scolds him coldly, mocking how pathetic he looks picking fights he can't finish. Piazza trembles, whispering that he thought he'd never see her again. She turns to Kyo and bows slightly, apologizing for the late introduction. Her voice is calm, controlled. Garuda. If not for him, she says she would have remained sealed for hundreds of years. Kyo's eyes sharpen. Garuda, one of the 4 legendary divine beasts from Divine Fantasy Chronicles, and somehow he just broke her out early. Garuda stands before him in a refined human wolf form. She speaks calmly, explaining that even divine beings erode under time. Power fades. Edges dull. Pride survives longer than strength ever does. She turns fully toward Kyo and thanks him, measured, sincere. Without his interference, her imprisonment would have stretched into eternity. That much is fact. Kyo studies her without lowering his guard. This encounter doesn't exist in his memory. A being of her caliber shouldn't have been sealed so easily. Garuda answers the unspoken doubt. Age stole her prime. She challenged the wrong enemy at the wrong moment. The rest is irrelevant. The past doesn't undo itself. Then her eyes narrow slightly. Why is someone like him here? Behind her, Piazza senses the shift in atmosphere and instinctively edges backward. He doesn't get far. Garuda notices. The air tightens. No shout, no visible motion, just pressure. What did you do? Piazza freezes. Panic floods him. He stammers apologies, instinct overriding pride. Before he can finish, Garuda smacks him repeatedly with her slipper, divine dignity temporarily replaced with maternal violence. Her disappointment is sharp, absolute. Wings flex slightly, aura leaking just enough to make a point clear. If Kyo desired it, she would reduce her own son to bones. Kyo waves both hands immediately, visibly uncomfortable. He wants no part in family executions. His objective remains simple. The Golden Scale King. The response is immediate. Piazza dives into the lake and resurfaces moments later, a writhing golden fish clenched in his jaws. He presents it proudly, like a trophy offered to royalty. Garuda watches with faint amusement, remarking that if Kyo ever needs more fish, her son will search all of Izumo to find them. Kyo accepts it reluctantly. One is enough. He stares at the weakened Golden Scale King and feels the dread settle in. No cooking method, no loophole, no seasoning. With visible regret, he eats it raw. It is exactly as awful as expected. When it's over, he exhales slowly. Objective complete. No reason to stay. Garuda bids him farewell, warmth softening her voice. If he ever calls, she will answer. As Kyo departs, Piazza finally voices his frustration. Garuda is being far too courteous to a human. If she unleashed her full strength, humanity would crumble like insects. Garuda laughs softly. Kyo's level, she says, is 1. The statement lands like a stone. Level 1? After everything? Piazza's disbelief is instant. He assumes deception, concealed stats, hidden masking. Garuda shakes her head. No disguise, no manipulation. Despite being level 1, Kyo has already surpassed beings ranked far above him. That is precisely why she has chosen to observe him. Through him, the fallen wings of her clan may rise again and reclaim the sky. In a bustling town not far away, Kyo browses a street stall, items neatly arranged. Prices clear. The vendor totals everything and waits expectantly. Kyo reaches into his pockets. Nothing. He freezes. Too late. He remembers. The vendor's expression darkens instantly. Hospitality evaporates. Kyo is chased off with irritation bordering on insult. He sighs as he walks away. Expected. A familiar presence drifts in behind him. Fu floats there casually, eating a kebab. Kyo spins, grabs her midair by the waist, and glares. He followed her instructions. Ate the Golden Scale King's liver. Now the system demands even more materials. Flash stones, ore stones, a sacred gem. Absurd. Fu shrugs from his grip, unbothered. The system decides. Not her problem. He releases her with a heavy exhale. The sacred gem will be troublesome. The rest? Manageable. Annoying, but manageable. As he walks through the crowded street, something catches his attention. A fortune teller's stall. At its center sits a softly glowing orb. A sign promises guaranteed readings, free if wrong, 3 per person daily. Behind it sits a quiet fortune teller, still as glass. Before Kyo steps forward. A flashy man with ice blue hair takes the seat, coins already laid out. The fortune teller doesn't open her eyes. No connection. Embarrassment flickers across his face. He pushes a pouch of gold forward. This time, her eyes open. Connection established. From across the street, Kyo watches. A slow smile spreads across his face. A fortune reading. Yeah, this could work perfectly. Moments later, a brand new stall appears in the center of the plaza. Simple, almost arrogant. A plain wooden table, a steady chair, a polished sign reading divination, followed by a bold promise. Fortunes for everyone, no tricks, guaranteed. Rita notices immediately. The crowd slows, whispers spread, then she moves. She strides over and slams her palm onto the table. The crack silences the plaza. Her glare is sharp, unapologetic. Anyone claiming unrestricted divination is either a fraud or mocking her craft. Kyo doesn't blink. Calmly, he points out the flaw in her method. She requires a connection to divine someone's fate. He does not. The audacity makes her lip twitch. To Rita, the orb behind her stall is sacred, the very heart of divination. Claiming superiority without one borders on blasphemy. Anger flickers. She pulls up a chair. A duel. Fortune against fortune. Winner keeps the plaza, loser leaves. Kyo glances at her with mild indifference. He admits he has no pride in fortune telling, but he does need money. That's enough. Before either can finalize terms, Fu floats into view, far too delighted. She announces, with theatrical excitement, the first official fortune teller skill competition in Indra Town. Hovering like a festival host, she presents the first challenge, the color of the next person's clothing at the nearby intersection. Both answer instantly. Rita, purple. Kyo, yellow. A woman walks past moments later, wearing both yellow and purple. The crowd explodes. Fu cheers, declaring both correct. Rita exhales sharply. Next round, she'll narrow it down. Second question, hairstyle. Rita answers without pause. Short hair. Kyo responds just as casually, bald. A man passes through, then removes his wig. Short-haired, bald underneath. Even Fu hesitates, no point awarded. The tension thickens. Final question, the weather. Rita straightens. This is her territory. Her voice is firm. Clear skies through the evening. Kyo's expression shifts. The lazy composure tightens into something absolute. Rain. Thunder detonates above them. Rain crashes down instantly, drenching the plaza in seconds, as if the sky had simply been waiting for his permission. Silence swallows the crowd. Rita doesn't move. This wasn't prediction. This was control. Understanding dawns in Kyo's mind. His earlier activation, Supreme Astrologer, was no decorative title. Astrologers aren't ordinary diviners. They observe celestial currents and nudge them. Nature listens. This final question was never random. Fu knew exactly what she was doing. She floats closer, smug smile wide, basking in the chaos. Rita lowers her gaze and exhales. Defeat is clear. She rises to leave, then notices Kyo's eyes lingering on her orb. She pauses, turns back, and offers it to him. Kyo stiffens. An orb like that isn't casually surrendered. Then she names the price. Even he blinks. Losing and still negotiating takes audacity. Rita shrugs lightly. She's changing professions anyway. He'll extract more value from it than she ever could. Kyo bargains without mercy. A brief exchange. Terms adjusted. She accepts. Before he can react, she leans in and kisses him. Quick, deliberate, then pulls away with a sly grin and walks off into the rain. Kyo steadies himself almost instantly. A smirk returns. The path is clear now. All he needs is money for crystal stones. The calm lasts less than 10 seconds. Angry voices cut through the rainfall. A hostile group pushes through the crowd, accusations flying. Kyo's smile disappears. He rises slowly. The rain continues to fall as his gaze settles on them, confused and very, very unimpressed. One man spills out the story in a rush. Rita arrived in town a week ago. Her divinations were terrifyingly accurate. She predicted Lord Bro's rise to power in Izumo, and people believed her. Trust came quickly. Money followed. A massive advance was paid without hesitation. Then, everything collapsed. When Lord Bro finally needed help, Rita claimed she couldn't understand the situation. It wasn't part of her teachings. She said she couldn't fix it, and only her master could. The man leans closer, anger simmering dangerously. He disappeared days later, and because of her disappearance, Lord Bro's condition didn't improve. It worsened. Kyo feels a headache forming. From his perspective, this is absurd. If that's the case, the solution should have been obvious. Track down Rita's teacher, the one she blamed everything on. None of this should involve him. Then the thought lands. That teacher. His expression tightens. The man notices instantly. A knowing smirk spreads as he steps closer, invading Kyo's space. There were witnesses. People heard the conversation earlier. As far as they're concerned, there's no confusion. Kyo is the teacher. Inside his head, Rita's coy smile replays with brutal clarity. He's been completely screwed over. The man snaps him back to reality by laying out the ultimatum. 2 options. Return the advance in full or personally solve Lord Bro's problem. Nearby, Fu floats lazily, smiling like this is premium entertainment. She doesn't even bother pretending there's a choice. She decides to get some food and vanish. Kyo stares, then snaps. He turns to chase after her, irritation finally boiling over, but the crowd misreads the movement. Panic spreads, someone shouts, and suddenly they rush him all at once. Kyo clicks his tongue and bolts. Any remaining composure shatters as he weaves through the streets, dodging fists and blades. He curses internally, painfully aware that his current body is built like an astrologer's, not a fighter's. This isn't meant for brawling. Running should have been enough. It isn't. He leaps, twists midair to change direction, and his ankle twists at a sickening angle. A sharp snap echoes. Pain explodes up his leg. Too fragile. Way too fragile. Panic spikes. Getting caught here would be disastrous. Fate, however, finds this hilarious. In the next instant, Kyo crashes straight into someone, ricochets off, and slams into the street. His vision spins. Nearby, Fu giggles, clearly enjoying herself. As he lies sprawled on the ground, someone looks down at him. Recognition flickers across her face as she pieces it together, why he's here, and how this mess started. The world shifts. Kyo finds himself inside an opulent chamber within a grand palace. Rich tapestries line the walls. A man speaks first, voice carrying the weight of authority earned through commerce and control. He introduces himself as Rin of Izumo Village, chairman of the Chamber of Commerce. Without Kyo's help at Mount Kitahodo, he says plainly, they would have died. A young woman steps forward next, gratitude clear in her eyes. It clicks. They're the same people, the man and girl he saved from the demon wolf. Kyo waves it off lightly, introducing himself in return. For a moment, the atmosphere softens, then it freezes. Captain Sieg enters like a siege engine, presence heavy and uncompromising. He has no interest in explanations. By the end of the day, Kyo must be brought before Lord Bro. Guards enter silently. Rin's eyes narrow. Sieg questions why so much effort is being wasted on an outsider. Rin answers calmly. Kyo is a valued customer of the Chamber of Commerce. Opposing him means opposing the chamber itself. Authority clashes. Sieg exhales and asks what they expect him to do. Rin proposes the solution without hesitation. They'll go to Lord Bro's estate and resolve the issue directly. Sieg adds a condition. If Kyo succeeds, he must be properly rewarded. That word flips a switch. Kyo's eyes light up. His smirk returns. Payment changes everything. Night falls as Lord Bro's castle looms into view, its silhouette cutting into the sky. Inside, heavy footsteps echo through gilded halls. Sieg announces Kyo's arrival. Lord Bro appears, bloated, shirtless, radiating arrogance. He orders Kyo brought forward. Sieg issues a warning. From this moment on, Kyo is forbidden from speaking about what he sees. Suspicion creeps in. Then Sieg delivers the truth. Lord Bro is pregnant. The world stops. Kyo's jaw drops. His mind short-circuits. For a brief moment, his soul leaves his body. A man. Pregnant. Logic collapses. Every decision that led him here flashes through his mind in regret. Nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared him for this. And as if that alone weren't absurd enough, Lord Bro insists the cause isn't biological. It's a curse, an evil spirit, something supernatural lodged inside him. Kyo catches on immediately. The pieces click together with irritating clarity. This is why he was dragged here. Astrologers don't just read stars. They deal with curses, exorcisms, spiritual abnormalities. In all the chaos, he'd completely forgotten that inconvenient detail. Things get stranger when a small child runs up to Lord Bro, clutching him in tears. The boy rambles anxiously, terrified something will happen to his father too, especially after already losing a younger brother. Lord Bro awkwardly comforts him, explaining the boy is his adopted son, shaken by the thought of losing another family member. Kyo's seen enough. Before the scene can collapse into melodrama, he cuts through it cleanly. Whatever this is, it needs to be handled quickly. He asks where the spirit is. The answer leads underground. A hidden entrance opens into a basement steeped in oppressive darkness. This is where the spirit resides. Sieg explains that Lord Bro already hired a renowned exorcist, Grandmaster Barn. Kyo's role is supposedly simple. Stay out of the way, assist if necessary, collect the reward. Easy money. Inside, Barn immediately launches into an extravagant performance. Chains ignite as he activates a sealing technique, locking down the demonic presence. Kyo watches with visible disinterest, privately noting how ridiculous it is to burn chains in a sealed underground space. If the demon doesn't kill them, the smoke might. Barn turns with theatrical confidence, acting as though victory is inevitable. His assistant beams beside him, praising how effortlessly his master summoned a high-rank holy cross. Kyo doesn't care. As long as the payment comes through, the room could collapse for all he cares. Barn escalates, summoning a massive holy cross that floods the basement with golden light. His assistant practically vibrates with excitement, convinced this is divine perfection. The demon shrieks as holy energy crashes into her. Barn smirks. Then, it fails. The demon doesn't vanish. She surges forward instead, fury erupting, presence swelling violently. Barnes' confidence shatters. Panic replaces arrogance as he launches another desperate attack. It does nothing. The demon evades effortlessly. For the first time, Barn realizes he's losing control. Kyo watches from the sidelines, arms folded, calm and detached. He casually remarks to the assistant that if this keeps going, his incredible master is going to die. That's enough to ignite fury. The assistant explodes, screaming about disrespect and blind faith, demanding Kyo stay out of it. Kyo's expression changes. He studies the battlefield properly now. Barn doesn't have enough spiritual power. The formation was doing most of the work, and now that it's failing, Barn is burning his own soul to sustain the Holy Cross. If it continues, Barn will die. The assistant refuses to accept it, and he grabs Kyo by the collar. Big mistake. Kyo's gaze snaps up, sharp, crimson tinted. He tells him to let go. The assistant freezes. That look isn't a bluff. Still, denial claws back. He screams about his master's decades of experience, clinging desperately to the illusion of superiority. Reality answers. Barn is slammed into the ground like discarded trash. The impact echoes violently. Screams fill the basement. Panic spreads. Now everyone understands. They are in serious trouble. The demoness rises fully, wings spreading wide, her presence dominating the room like an executioner stepping forward. Death feels close enough to touch. Kyo doesn't move. Sieg, sweating, looks to him desperately for anything. Kyo raises his hand. A small flame forms effortlessly in his palm. The thought settles simply. If a holy cross is required, why not summon one himself? Barnes scrambles forward, shouting warnings, begging Kyo to stop. He claims he'll erect another formation, buy time, get everyone out before it collapses. Kyo doesn't look at him. He studies the flame like it's a cigarette lighter and states the obvious truth. Just because Barn can't do it doesn't mean he can't. Barn's eyes go wide. Golden swords manifest in midair, radiant and precise. Flames orbit Kyo's body like a celestial engine, his presence shifting completely. The room goes silent. Impossible, Barn thinks. With a single motion, the cross launches forward, ripping through the air like divine judgment. Golden light tears through the demoness, making her scream wildly. A primal roar tears out of the demoness as her body convulses beneath the relentless blaze of golden crosses. Then she counters. A sonic shockwave detonates from her throat, crushing force blasting outward as the golden crosses are flung away, their divine flames scattering like dying embers swept aside by the wind. For a brief, fatal moment, confidence returns to her face. She convinces herself she's seen the limit, that he poured everything into that last attack. The belief doesn't survive a heartbeat. The air ignites again. Golden light forms effortlessly, precise and controlled. One cross appears, then another, then more, multiplying around Kyo like a constellation answering its master's call. The idea that he's exhausted collapses instantly. 8. 12, 16. The demoness's pupils shrink as reality crushes her bravado. Strength drains from her limbs. She drops to her knees, body trembling as panic replaces arrogance. Whatever pride remains shatters as she begs desperately for the assault to stop. Kyo watches without sympathy, faint amusement flickering at how quickly her resolve broke. Then his presence sharpens, playfulness evaporating. He demands the truth. Why curse bro? Why implant something so dangerous inside him? Her shoulders slump. The answer that follows is heavier than expected. She insists there's been a misunderstanding. She hadn't acted out of malice. She wanted to help a child. She explains slowly. A small spirit appeared here earlier, a boy who died young, his soul fragile and fading. His final wish wasn't revenge. He only wanted to stay with his father a little longer. Desperate, she fused the child's spirit with her own power and implanted it into Bra so the boy wouldn't disappear. Kyo's expression darkens immediately. Such a fusion could have killed him. She recoils, guilt flooding her face. And she admits she didn't think that far ahead. Her intentions were reckless, not cruel. She swears she's never harmed a human before. Kyo studies her carefully, reading her spiritual signature. No deception, no blood on her soul. After a tense pause, he relents. He won't kill her for now. The truth will be confirmed with Bro directly. Relief crashes over her. She agrees to follow. Back at the mansion, the truth is revealed. Bro's swollen belly is exposed as the explanation unfolds. The child's spirit, Toby, emerges gently, glowing blue as he's separated from Bro's body. Emotion floods the room as father and son are reunited at last. Kyo remains detached, stating the unavoidable truth. If the fusion had continued, Bro would have died. With practiced precision, he extracts Toby fully, the process clean and controlled. Bro pleads for answers. Kyo declines. His role is finished. He's been paid. As he turns to leave, a quiet remark stops him. Toby wanted to become a user of sacred crystals. Kyo freezes. Sacred crystals matter. Later, back in the lively town square, Fu is fully absorbed in street food, treating the entire crisis like ancient history. Amioto walks beside Kyo, calm but thoughtful, asking if he truly won't stay longer. He doesn't slow. Time isn't something he can waste. She hesitates, then steps forward and offers him a basket. Inside are flashbang crystals and transparent crystals worth a considerable sum, along with a heavy pouch of gold coins. It's a token of genuine gratitude. The price makes Kyo pause. The realization hits immediately. He was overcharged earlier, by a ridiculous margin. Amioda doesn't miss a beat. Merchants exist to profit. That's simply how things work. She meets his eyes and makes a promise. If he ever needs help, she'll be there. She won't let him lose even a single somi in the future. Rin chimes in, noting that Amioda understands cost pricing, labor expenses, and trade margins better than most. From now on, matters involving the town should go through her. Kyo considers it quietly. If he continues doing business here, he really could save a lot. Amioda asks him to return safely. Kyo answers honestly. He can't promise safety, but he will return. He calls for Fu, grabbing her mid-meal and hoisting her away despite her protests and half-stuffed mouth. Whatever she was doing clearly isn't finished, but he doesn't slow down. Behind them, Rin asks why Amioda didn't try harder to keep him. She smiles faintly. Kyo isn't someone who stays. He's someone who moves forward. And one day, she intends to be strong enough to support him, just like how he made her fall for him. Night settled over the village like a warm blanket. Inside a candlelit inn-room, Kyo stood with one hand in his pocket, already planning the road ahead. The next town was still too far to reach tonight, so stopping here was the only sensible choice. Fu had other priorities. She launched herself onto the bed with the enthusiasm of someone who had spent the entire day eating, rolled once, then wrapped herself tightly in the blanket like an unapologetic burrito. Kyo glanced over and, completely deadpan, wondered aloud whether she intended to bathe before sleeping. Fu waved the thought away without opening her eyes, declaring sleep more important than hygiene, then immediately drifted off. Kyo stared for a moment, then frowned. The air felt wrong, too cold, too still. A faint chill brushed his instincts. He muttered about the temperature and turned toward the closet, and there she was. The demoness from earlier, red horns, shameless cleavage, and that same smug aura, standing inside as if she'd booked the room herself. She greeted him warmly, presenting herself like complimentary room service, and latched onto his arm with practiced ease. Kyo reacted instantly. He shoved her straight back into the closet and slammed the door. No hesitation. A second later, with even less patience, he grabbed her by the face and sent her flying clean out of the room. Outside, the demoness picked herself up, dusted off her clothes, and pouted. She'd gone to the trouble of preparing something special, after all. A shady man in goggles witnessed everything from the shadows, clutching a suspicious bottle. Misreading the situation entirely, he boldly requested room service for himself. That was a mistake. In an instant, the demoness was inches from his face, fangs bared, aura flaring like a boss fight opening. The man screamed and bolted down the hallway, shouting about ghosts, chaos trailing behind him. Nearby guests peeked out nervously, whispering in confusion. Moments later, Kyo stormed out, seized the demoness by the wrist like an exhausted babysitter, and dragged her back inside. She smirked the whole way, clearly enjoying it far more than she should have. Kyo ignored that and demanded to know why she was following him. Throughout it all, Fu slept peacefully, snoring without a care, blissfully unaware that supernatural nonsense was unfolding nearby. The demoness finally grew serious and began recounting her past. Once human, nearly attacked, choosing death to protect her master. Kyo cut her off immediately and told her to summarize. She adapted smoothly. She was tired of existing as a wandering soul and wanted to reconstruct her body. For that, she needed his help. In return, she offered absolute loyalty. Kyo laid out the facts calmly. Reconstructing a body required power on par with a level 5 astrologer. Even with specialized skills, level 4 was the minimum, and he was still level 1. Her confidence didn't waver. Defeating her at level 1 only convinced her further. She entrusted her soul to him without hesitation. Kyo warned her clearly this put her existence entirely in his hands. She accepted immediately, compressing her soul into a glowing purple orb and offering it to him. Kyo sealed it and agreed to help once he reached level 4, on one condition. She misunderstood instantly and began undressing. Kyo panicked, stopped her outright, and reassigned her. She was to check on his family's home in case the Izumi family made a move. He shortened her name to Vivi. She blushed at the nickname. He ordered her to leave immediately and not scare his family. Vivi misunderstood again and insisted on sharing a bed with him. Kyo shut that down instantly. The chaos peaked when Vivi accidentally landed on the sleeping Fu. Fu jolted awake in blind fury, aura flaring as she raged about her disturbed sleep. Vivi panicked, apologized repeatedly, and fled in terror. terror. The next day, beneath clear skies, Kyo arrived in a new town and stared bitterly at the incomprehensible map Zoro had drawn. Whatever logic it once had was long gone. Nearby, a blonde man confidently introduced himself to a woman, listing his age, assets, and marital status like a resume. Kyo briefly considered asking him for directions. Fu interrupted immediately, demanding food. Kyo shut that down. The holy crystal came first. Fu protested loudly that she was still growing. The blonde man continued charming the woman, smiling warmly as he held her hand, while darker, possessive thoughts churned beneath the surface. Kyo passed by. As he did, the air warped. The man stiffened, pupils dilating as he grew suspicious. Something was off about Kyo. Tina clung to his arm, tilting her head in confusion as she asked if something was wrong. He didn't answer. He barely even heard her. A crawling sensation ran up his spine. Only when his fingers twitched and he released her hand did he realize how suffocating it had been. He spun around sharply, eyes locking onto a single figure walking away in the distance. An apology spilled out hurriedly as he excused himself, but he was already moving. Under the shade of a towering tree, Kyo had stopped. Beside him, Fu twirled happily, licking her fingers and humming about the dumplings from earlier. Kyo shot her a flat look, silently wondering why this journey felt more like her personal gourmet tour. Before he could dwell on it, a presence announced itself from behind. Lord Weiner stepped forward, posture stiff, movements deliberate. He pointed out that Kyo had been staring at him earlier. Recognition clicked. The flirt from town. Kyo dismissed it immediately. Maybe the man thought something had been ruined. He brushed it off as nothing more than a passing glance, explaining he'd only considered asking for directions before figuring things out on his own. He turned to leave. The man's disbelief hardened, his voice sharpening as he questioned whether anyone would believe such an excuse. Then, the atmosphere shattered. A streak of red tore through the air toward Kyo's throat with lethal precision. Kyo was already moving. His blade flashed into existence, parrying the strike effortlessly. The redirected force screamed past him, cleaving straight through the trees behind. The man skidded backward, red energy crackling violently around his arm. That reaction confirmed everything in his mind. No ordinary passerby could move like that. The man broke. His composure collapsed into hysteria as paranoia took over. In his mind, Kyo could only be a shadow hunter sent to capture him. From the sidelines, Tina watched in horror, hands clutching her chest. Tina had been struggling to find a lover, and now that she had someone so perfect, she couldn't let him go. Kyo raised an eyebrow, unimpressed, and tried once more to de-escalate, insisting he genuinely only wanted directions. That was the final straw. Lord Weiner screamed at the top of his lungs, demanding to know what was wrong with loving women's hands. Kyo stared at him deeply, wondering what he was trying to say. The man snapped completely. His obsession spilled out unfiltered as he revealed a severed woman's hand, displaying it like a treasured relic. Any remaining illusion shattered instantly. I love women's hands, and I'm so obsessed with them. I go around tasting other people's just in case they belong to one. What's so wrong with that? Tina froze. The man she thought to be perfect was a pervert obsessed with hands. The man's grin twisted feral. Now that his secret was exposed, Kyo couldn't be allowed to leave alive. Kyo stared at him in disbelief. He hadn't asked for this. The confession was unprompted, unhinged, and entirely unwanted, but it was already too late. The man lunged, fists blazing with red energy. Golden light erupted as a divine barrier formed around Kyo. The collision cracked the ground beneath them. The attacker's arm snapped back at an unnatural angle as cracks spidered across his gauntlet and detonated. The backlash obliterated him in a violent explosion of smoke and mangled remains. Silence followed. Kyo grimaced at what was left, mildly annoyed that pieces remained. Fu, disturbingly cheerful, wondered aloud whether it could be turned into breakfast. Kyo sighed, grabbed a shovel, and cleaned up with detached efficiency. Someone seeing this would cause problems. Kyo turned to Tina, who was watching him in shock, and quickly told her that none of this was his fault. She must have seen Weiner come at him first. Tina turned to him with a weary look, wondering if she was cursed to never get married. Every man she'd met ended up being a disaster. The guy she just met was a pervert obsessed with hands. The one before him had lured her in to steal her organs for his sister. She'd only escaped because a maid warned her. She threw her arms around Kyo and burst into tears, yelling and questioning why this kept happening to her. Kyo felt bad for her. He decided to escort her to the city. They resumed walking side by side as though nothing had happened, though she stayed closer now. Kyo's thoughts drifted inward. Vivi's soul, his equipment, goldenfin shell, fang of oblivion, stronger than before. Fu's smug voice echoed in his head, praising the loot and anticipating what came next. He exhaled and tuned her out. They'd arrived. Menars' estate loomed ahead, massive and oppressive. Guards stood watch everywhere, each radiating abnormal pressure. These weren't ordinary soldiers. Standing in the open felt foolish. Kyo climbed the steps anyway, then stopped. A familiar figure waited at the top. Recognition hit hard. Kyo's jaw tightened, he remembered, and he hadn't hadn't forgotten how badly this woman had set him up. As they draw closer, Fu suddenly stiffens. Her eyes go wide as recognition slams into her, and she blurts out, loud enough for half the courtyard to hear, that the braided hair witch who tricked her is standing right there. That, unfortunately, gets everyone's attention. The guards squint. One particularly crust with an impressive mustache steps forward, eyes narrowing as he compares details. Same age, same hair color, and decides he's seen enough. No questions, no confirmation. He gives the order. And just like that, the courtyard explodes into chaos. Blades flash, bodies leap, and Kyo finds himself dodging divine-grade enthusiasm while trying to process a side quest he never accepted. From his perspective, this is just another entry in the long list of reasons people seem to hate him on sight. Someone in the unit shouts about judgment and missing children, loudly declaring that Minar won't escape this time. Kyo, still weaving through flying swords, can only react with genuine confusion. He literally just said he was here looking for that same guy. Fu, entirely unhelpful but brutally honest, points out that Kyo simply has the kind of face that makes people assume he's a villain. That doesn't slow the guards down. The mustached knight escalates, accusing them of involvement in multiple child disappearances, insisting the evidence is airtight and resistance is pointless. Then he makes the fatal mistake of turning his condescension toward Fu, calling her a little girl and assuring her she's safe now. That ends poorly. Fu detonates. Golden light erupts as she unleashes divine punishment with zero restraint, sending the mustached knight flying across the courtyard. She immediately clarifies very loudly that she is a full-grown adult, thank you very much, and that no child has a body like hers. Unfortunately, that visual demonstration claims another victim. Pretty boy with a shield charges heroically and collapses mid-run in a nosebleed-induced knockout, utterly defeated by Fu's existence. Meanwhile, a dark-humored warrior woman grins, already promising Kyo an early funeral, gleefully describing how much she enjoys crushing criminals. She doesn't get the chance. Kyo blitzes past her guard and casually drops her with a clean strike to the back of the neck, pointing out that being loud doesn't count as being strong. Once the dust settles, a familiar girl with glasses rushes in, cheerfully trying to smooth things over by calling Kyo Teach. He responds by calmly demanding she return the money she took first. Negotiations can come later. The mustached knight finally catches up to reality and backpedals hard, introducing himself as Leto, leader of a shadow hunter unit. He explains they're investigating Minar, a former priest accused of abducting children, and admits, awkwardly, that one victim strongly resembled Fu. Fu's glare alone nearly earns him another divine strike. Leto hastily adds that the Duke personally commissioned this investigation and begins introducing the unit, each member proudly showcasing their particular brand of instability. The warrior woman openly states she enjoys accidentally killing criminals if their guilt is proven. The pretty boy recovers enough dignity to announce he joined to protect beautiful women, only to be immediately roasted for selectively defining lady in deeply questionable ways, pointing out that during the last investigation, the victims were adult women, and he didn't seem motivated back then. Pretty Boy Shield loses his temper and snaps back, insisting that any girl over 14 isn't a lady, and that it's common sense. The warrior chick shoots back immediately, calling him what he really is, some gross lolicon freak pretending it's heroism. He fires back too, saying he'd rather be that than a sadistic perv like her. Kyo watches the entire exchange with visible disinterest, concluding that everyone in the Shadowhunters clearly has some kind of special technique, and that he truly does not care. He finally explains why he's here at all. Bra mentions sacred crystals in this place. That changes the tone instantly. Leto seizes the opportunity, asking if Kyo would be willing to cooperate if Minar appears. The earlier misunderstanding is conveniently forgotten, especially after witnessing Kyo's strength firsthand. Kyo sighs, clearly exhausted by the collective nonsense, and agrees to help. The group sets off toward the looming cathedral, moving like a party heading into a boss dungeon. But Kyo isn't finished. As they walk, he circles back to unfinished business, addressing the girl with glasses. She admits quietly that she pulled her earlier stunt just to get him here, whispering that everything worked out anyway. Rita turns back toward him with a slow, devilish smirk, the kind that makes it obvious she knew exactly what she was doing all along. To make it worse, she throws him a deliberately suggestive glance, as if her insight extended far beyond simple fortune-telling. Losing to him bruised her pride, but it never limited her abilities. Kyo just stares at her, exhausted. In the end, he waves it off. No arguing, no theatrics, just a flat reminder that she owes him once they reach the sacred crystal. Rita hums lightly, clearly already planning how to cash in that favor her later. The mood shifts as the group reaches the mouth of a dark cavern. Torches ignite, weapons slide free, and they step inside cautiously. Then they hear it. Faint voices echo from somewhere ahead. A shout cuts through the tension as something comes into view. Beyond jagged formations of glowing red crystal, a figure is trapped, limbs spread unnaturally, body fused into crystal, groaning weakly. Maria freezes. This looks like one of the girls Minar supposedly abducted. Before anyone can stop him, Leon surges forward, chest puffed out, slipping straight into hero mode. He declares that her suffering is over, promises salvation, and strides toward her without a shred of caution. At first, she looks pitiful. Then the illusion collapses. Her body twists violently. White eyes snap open. Teeth sharpen. The thing lunges at Leon like a feral nightmare, tackling him flat and tearing into his chest with murderous frenzy. Maria reacts instantly, fury flashing as she leaps in to save him and slams straight into a crystal tentacle that intercepts her strike like steel. The counterattack is immediate. Crimson spikes erupt from the ground, impaling upward and catching her midair. Leto moves without hesitation, driving his spear clean through the creature's chest from behind. He recognizes it instantly, a crimson core manifestation. The howl that follows isn't weakness, it's escalation. He shouts for Leon to finish it now, screaming that hesitation means death. Leon freezes. He can't do it. The thing still looks like a child. That pause nearly kills them. The creature lunges again, grin stretching wide, shrieking with delight. Then Kyo moves. One step, one flash. A single clean slash ends it. The body collapses lifelessly to the ground. Silence crashes down. Kyo stands over the corpse calmly, as if he just swept up a mess, idly wondering whether killing it was the correct call. Leto exhales shakily, openly acknowledging that without Kyo stepping in, the outcome would have been catastrophic. But the relief doesn't last. His gaze sharpens, unease creeping in as he questions the nature of the power Maynard used to turn humans into such creatures. They press deeper, entering a dusty chamber that's disturbingly organized, far too clean for a cavern like this. It feels wrong, like stumbling into a hidden basement that should never be opened. Leto studies the room and realizes what it is, an archive, and a horrifying one. Worse still, the patterns match old records. This place may be tied to Moray, the infamous apostle of the dark ability cult from decades ago. Kyo reacts with open skepticism. That Moray? Rita, clearly enjoying the moment, fills in the gaps. The cult refined grotesque rituals that turned sacred crystals into blood crystals using human sacrifices, even empowering themselves with the results. Because of Moray, hundreds of thousands died across Ira. 30 years ago, he fought the Empire alone, killed their commander, and vanished. Leto flips through records until the final detail clicks. The ritual's efficiency skyrocketed when a specific kind of individual was used. Kyo already knows the answer. Children. He must have sacrificed countless children. Before the implication can settle, Maria notices something else. A closet, meticulously maintained. Kyo shrugs and suggests opening it anyway. Leto panics. Against dark art users, they're completely outmatched. This has to be Moray. The doors open. Inside are jars, rows of preserved hands. The atmosphere instantly collapses into pure serial killer horror. Kyo grimaces, grossed out but unsurprised, as Leto confirms Moray's obsession. Hands. Gender didn't matter. Every victim was missing one. Leto wants to retreat immediately. This is beyond them. Kyo isn't convinced. He smirks and asks a deceptively casual question. Has anyone here actually seen Moray or Menar's face before? Before Leto can respond, Kyo gestures outside and suggests Moray might already be dead. They rush out. A partially buried corpse lies in the dirt. Kyo confirms it with infuriating calm. Leto stares in disbelief. The face matches. Wanted posters from decades ago burn into his memory. It's Moray. No question. Confusion follows immediately. How could Kyo possibly know? Kyo shrugs and explains simply, the man snapped, charged him, tried to punch him, and the moment he made contact, he exploded. Leto freezes. Exploded? Kyo flashes a pure troll grin. Yeah, they finally get a moment to breathe, settling into a small sunlit restaurant where the tension of the last few hours slowly loosens its grip. Kyo sits at the table, staring at the sacred crystals laid out before him, their glow unmistakable, undeniably real. Rita leans back with that familiar knowing ease, treating the exchange like a formality, offering the crystals as if they naturally belong in his hands. Leto, meanwhile, goes full ceremonial. He straightens, voice heavy with emotion, declaring that Kyo didn't just save the squad, he saved countless families across the nation. Before anyone can respond, Rita vanishes. 1 second she's there, the next she's launching herself out the window at full speed, shouting something about a donkey giving birth to the east. Kyo watches her disappear, blinks once, and mutters that she's absurdly fast when she actually feels like running. With that chaos over, things wind down quickly. Leto announces they'll return to file a formal report, and once Once the corpse is officially confirmed as Minar's, Kyo will receive notice regarding his reward. Leon immediately drops into mourning, loudly lamenting the many beautiful women lost to that monster. Maria simply grabs him and drags him away like an embarrassing child who's said something unforgivable in public. Fu, meanwhile, is entirely unbothered. She eats with complete dedication, fully committed to finishing everything in sight. Then the atmosphere snaps. Sharp heels click against the floor. Conversations die instantly. Marshal Feyon enters the restaurant. Her presence alone bends the room, the veil, the crown, the razor-sharp gaze radiating authority. She wastes no time walking straight up to Kyo and introducing herself as the marshal in charge of this region before dropping the accusation like a blade. He's a suspect in a murder case, she explains calmly. 2 hours earlier, a woman named Tina was found dead in the forest east of town, her heart removed. According to a witness, the last person seen with Tina was Kyo. Something tightens in his chest. He remembers her clearly, the fear, the relief at escaping, the man she spoke about. The realization settles heavily. Feyon informs him he'll be coming in for questioning. Kyo remains calm. He states plainly that at the time of the murder, he was with the Shadow Hunters and suggests she verify it with them. One subordinate snaps at him to stay silent, but Feyon shuts it down instantly, clarifying the hierarchy with icy precision. The Shadow Hunters are a private guild. Imperial marshals answer directly to the Central Council. The gap is vast, and she makes sure he understands it. As Kyo signals he's done entertaining this and turns to leave, the situation detonates. Without touching him, Feyon sends him flying. Gravity abandons him mid-step. His body flips, then slams into the floor with crushing force, the impact echoing through the restaurant. She declares that once she targets a criminal, escape is impossible. Pinned and stunned, Kyo struggles to process what just happened. The method is unnatural, the control absolute. Feyon stands over him and formally places him under arrest for murder, disturbing the peace, and violating social order. Later, in a dim interrogation room, Kyo sits bound in thick ropes as Feyon leans in close, her tone playful in a way far more dangerous than anger. She implies that silence could keep him here indefinitely. Kyo sighs, unimpressed, repeating that he has nothing to do with the case and that she should confirm it with the Shadow Hunters. She steps closer, lifts his chin, teasing him with the idea that maybe he wants to stay. Then the pressure hits. His body suddenly feels impossibly heavy, as if the world itself doubled in weight. His legs tremble as understanding snaps into place. Gravity manipulation. That's how she did it. Feyon watches with satisfaction, warning that if he resists, his knees won't last much longer. Before she can continue, a subordinate bursts in. The report is clear. The timing checks out. Kyo isn't the culprit. Forced to release him, Feyon cuts the ropes with sharp, irritated movements and coldly tells him he's free to go, warning that next time they meet, she'll train him properly. Kyo steps closer instead of retreating, calm, composed. He mirrors her intimidation perfectly, telling her he's looking forward to it. Then the pressure hits her. Her body locks mid-step, frozen by her own force. Realization crashes down. He figured it out, replicated it, and turned it back on her. She drops to her knees, humiliation burning through her as her heart pounds wildly. And then, beneath the rage and shame, another realization surfaces, an excitement she did not ask for. Moments later, sharp, furious footsteps rip through the corridor as Feyon storms down the hall. She demands to know why Kyo was released. Walking beside her, the mustached officer answers with maddening calm. Someone learned of Tatsumi Kyo's arrest and paid an enormous bail to secure his freedom. Then he adds the real blow. Those same benefactors fund nearly half of the marshal's operating expenses. Feyon's eye twitches. Her pride fractures. Her ego recoils. Of all people, he turns out to be untouchable. The officer presses on, trying to cool her temper. The bail wasn't the only factor. The results from the true form establishment device finally came back. Briefly, the scene shifts to the so-called witness, strapped down in an interrogation chamber. The verdict is absolute. The testimony was false. Feyon stops. Her anger doesn't fade, it sharpens. So the claim that Kyo was the last person seen with the victim was fabricated. The officer confirms it plainly. Noticing her flushed face and lingering tension, he asks if it's hot. Feyon brushes it off, though the truth is harder to swallow. Dispelling Kyo's psychic influence took real effort. The humiliation still clings to her skin, and humiliation needs somewhere to go. Her gaze drifts toward the prisoner. A slow smile forms as she reaches for a leather whip. The man tied to the chair seems to realize, far too late, that Kyo was never the problem. Meanwhile, Kyo walks out of custody like he just finished a coffee break. Outside, Amido rushes to him, relief clear on her face. She clearly pulled strings, fast, efficiently. Kyo acknowledges it immediately, surprised not just by her help, but that she even found him. She didn't come just for that. A merchant returning from the north brought news. A battle has broken out. Kyo's posture shifts instantly. The Hibashi family launched an attack on the Tatsumi family. The town has already been overrun. This wasn't coincidence. A Moedo tracked him down relentlessly because time mattered. Everything clicks. Kyo thanks her and decides without hesitation he's heading back immediately. Fu steps in at once, unfazed, declaring she's coming too. Even in her juvenile state, the Queen of Sorrow won't struggle against enemies like that. A Moedo presents the final preparation, an elite horse from the Merchant Guild. Fast, war-bred, practically a weapon. Kyo understands immediately. He meets her eyes, genuine gratitude there now, and asks her to pass a message to Bra that his adopted son passed away peacefully. She nods. One kick, and the horse launches forward, tearing across the land like a living missile. Amito watches him vanish, smiling softly, glad she could help. Beside her, Fu suddenly appears, loudly questioning what's so special about that trash guy anyway, then freezes. She's not on the horse. Panic hits. Without hesitation, Fu launches herself into the air, chasing after him like she just realized she forgot something critical. Elsewhere, the battlefield burns. The Izumi family descends with ruthless coordination, advancing like seasoned predators. Their leader, an old man with a smile as shady as unpaid taxes, watches with satisfaction. Divided forces, controlled pressure. Everything is going exactly as planned. He recalls orchestrating Kyo's arrest, feeding that information deliberately. According to intel, Tatsumi Kyo was in Katente. He orders his subordinates to delay him at all costs. The powerful old woman who could have interfered, sealed off by forces stationed along the mountain. Perfect. On the field, the remaining Tatsumi fighters are cornered, exhaustion heavy in their movements. Lady Rina turns to Toki, anxious but steady, asking what she should do. Toki answers calmly. The martial arts Rina received from the young master, combined with her divine charm, hold terrifying potential. Now is the time. Across from them, enemy soldiers laugh, mocking her, convinced victory is inevitable. Rina doesn't flinch. She looks at them with pure contempt. The Izumi leader issues final orders, declaring the Tatsumi forces fully trapped. Once reinforcements arrive, it ends in one decisive strike. What he doesn't realize, his plan is already unraveling. Enter Vivi. Kyo's demoness stands amid fallen bodies, utterly unimpressed. Even with superior numbers, none of them came close to challenging her. She yawns, considering whether to drag this out until nightfall for efficiency. Then, her expression changes. Her eyes widen, glowing faintly. Something is wrong. She feels it instantly. A presence so overwhelming it dwarfs everyone else on the battlefield. Power so immense it makes everything else feel insignificant. Vivi's heart pounds. Anticipation and dread collide as she turns toward the approaching presence, fully aware. What was an easy massacre has just become something far more dangerous. Vivi, everyone's favorite demonic disaster, was already airborne, locked onto her target with the focus of a heat-seeking missile. No hesitation, no doubt. The moment she felt it, she knew. She'd found it. She shot forward, her war cry tearing through the sky. Fire coiled around her body, spiraling into a blood-red vortex, shooting an energy beam of hellfire. The forest below glowed as if the world itself had been flash-seared by a volcano. On the Tatsumi side, panic erupted instantly. One commander stared upward, voice cracking, unable to comprehend what kind of monster had just arrived. He clenched his teeth, realization hitting hard. The Izumi clan had prepared something meant to end the battlefield outright. From the Izumi front lines, their leader spoke calmly, like he'd just placed an order. Reinforcements had arrived. Vivi hovered above the battlefield, surveying scorched earth and trembling soldiers, unimpressed until she saw it. Her target was still alive. From the smoke, a voice roared through the haze, raw with pain and rage. Piazza emerged. He immediately framed it as a sneak attack, roaring about vile wraiths and disgusting tricks, clearly experienced in hating demons like her. Vivi squinted at him, unimpressed. Piazza exploded, roaring that he wasn't a cat, he was a tiger. Vivi smirked. She reminded him cats supposedly had 9 lives, then wondered aloud how many he'd lost already. That did it. Piazza snapped back instantly, challenging her to test it. They took that as permission. Red energy tightened around Vivi, hotter, sharper. At the same time, Piazza charged like a blazing comet. Divine power wrapped around him like armor. Demon and beast, fire and fury. They collided again and again, tearing the sky apart while the battlefield below became an afterthought. The Izumi elder snapped his head up, confusion tightening his face. This wasn't supposed to happen. He thought only one fighter was sent. He shouted upward, trying to command them, ordering it to stop. Piazza's eyes narrowed as he demanded to know who the old man even was. The elder raised his book, assuming authority, insisting Piazza was sent by Mukare. The situation was urgent. The Tatsumi clan had to be annihilated immediately. Mukare. Piazza hesitated. Then the words landed. Annihilate the Tatsumi clan. Vivi's expression went dead flat. They turned toward the elder at the same time. Synchronized. Furious. Decision made. If he ordered the Tatsumi clan's destruction, he'd be the first to fall. They moved. Far from that chaos, Hooves thundered across the land. Kyo rode hard toward home, focus locked, urgency burning, made infinitely worse by Fu, who complained nonstop. Riding was uncomfortable. Flying was tiring. She was starving, dizzy, victimized by existence. Kyo ignored most of it until something she said snagged his thoughts. He asked again about the Queen of Sorrow. Fu stalled, rambling, playing dumb. She never finished. A legendary Kirin slammed into them at impossible speed, vaporizing the horse into regret and sending Kyo flipping through the air. He hit the ground hard. What the hell just happened? The Kirin acted offended, complaining his appetite was ruined and demanding to know what Kyo planned to do about it. Fu exploded, screaming about reckless driving like she was celestial traffic enforcement. The Kirin scoffed, mocking their slowness, blaming them entirely. Kyo pointed at the absence of a horse and demanded another immediately. He needed to get home. The Kirin shrugged, saying he'd get one after eating, then vanished in a flash. Kyo's patience snapped. The Kirin sensed something behind him, turned, and saw Kyo. Keeping up, Kyo seized him by the neck mid-dash and stopped him cold. Traffic rules, he explained calmly, still applied. The Kirin froze. Humans didn't do that. Kyo laid out the terms. Since the Kirin was fast, he'd be Kyo's ride. Do that, and this would be forgiven. The Kirin protested. Guardian beast, symbol of grace. Nations begged for his favor. Kyo asked one question. So he refused? The Kirin caved instantly. Kyo smiled and pointed north. They were moving. Just like that, Kyo upgraded from horse to legendary beast, forcing the Kirin into service through pure dominance. The dust finally settles, revealing the aftermath of absolute chaos. At the center of it all stands the divine beast Piasa, towering like a living calamity, one massive claw gripping the Izumi elder by the front of his robes. The old man apologizes, begs, swears that if he offended the beast in any way, he never meant it. That's when Piasa's eye twitches, not with mercy. Without warning, Piasa hurls the elder away. The old man becomes a projectile, crashing through stone, walls, and the last scraps of pride he had left. Vivi drops from above like a meteor powered by malice and zero restraint, flipping midair with theatrical flair. Her wings spread wide, grin sharp and unhinged, and she unleashes it without hesitation. Trembling roar. Black and red energy detonates outward, a sonic wave of pure hostility. Elsewhere in the fortress, a white-haired Tatsumi commander halts mid-step as the tremors reach him. Blade drawn, instincts screaming, he rallies his forces and moves toward the disturbance. What they find is surreal. The Izumi elder lies broken on the ground, blood pouring from his mouth as he screams that there shouldn't be grudges between them, demanding to know why this is happening. The commander blinks. That's the Izumi elder. He lets out a short, amused breath. Whatever the reason, this feels earned. Then his attention shifts. Piasa steps forward, breath frosting the air, claws digging into the ground. The commander demands to know the beast's purpose here. He warns Piasa, they won't hand over Kyo. If death is what the beast wants, they'll accept it. The response earns not rage, but respect. Piasa relaxes slightly and announces he wishes to pay his respects, specifically to his benefactor's uncle. The words land like a divine strike. The commander freezes, asking what Piasa means. Piasa bows, explaining calmly that Lord Kyo is his mother's benefactor, and asks, politely, if he may call the man uncle. The commander nearly stumbles. He mutters that he never imagined a divine beast would be this well-mannered. Piasa credits his mother's strict upbringing and explains he'd been gathering information for Lord Kyo, which is why he'd been roaming nearby. A soldier suddenly blurts out that he knew something was watching them earlier. His senior had told him to shut up and train harder. He feels vindicated. Heels click forward. Vivi steps into view, smirk locked in place, announcing shamelessly that Lord Kyo sent her to protect his homeland. It finally clicks for Piasa, both of them, on the same side. He demands to know why neither said anything earlier. Vivi snaps back that someone sneaking around behind them doesn't exactly scream ally. Fair. The commander eyes Vivi carefully and asks what she means when she calls Kyo Lord. Vivi blushes theatrically, placing a hand on her hip and declaring they share a sacred bond. The commander explodes, ranting about responsibility, marriage, and Kyo taking things too lightly, before abruptly calming down and declaring he'll personally welcome Vivi into the Tatsumi clan as Kyo's wife. Vivi lights up like she just won the world. Then, she's crushed to her knees by telekinetic pressure. She screams, demanding to know who did that. Piasa growls and freezes. Kyo arrives, riding a visibly traumatized Kirin that looks like it's reconsidering its entire existence. Kyo explains calmly that Vivi was getting carried away and asks if she has a problem with the correction. Vivi apologizes instantly, muttering that the sacred bond part wasn't entirely a lie. Piasa stumbles. Kyo greets him casually, then checks on his uncle. The commander explains the Izumi elder led the attack, but thanks to Piazza and Vivi, it didn't escalate further. Kyo's expression darkens as he looks at the battered elder. He asks, coldly, whether the man understands what attacking the Tatsumi clan means. The elder sneers, mocking him, preaching the law of the jungle, and then asks if Kyo can say for sure that his sister is safe. Kyo's blood turns to ice. Runa. He moves immediately, dragging the elder along, warning him that if anything happened to his sister, he will regret being born. The elder laughs, bragging about elite forces stationed on the mountain, telling Kyo to hurry unless he wants to be too late. Vivi begs to torture the man's soul. Kyo stops her. They'll see first. A scream pierces the air. Someone begging for death. Kyo calls out Runa's name and rushes forward. What he finds isn't her. It's a man on his knees, shaking. Behind him stands Toki, laughing wildly as hearts explode around her victim. Another man begs to be killed instead. Runa answers calmly. She grants his wish. One clean strike. The man turns to dust. His final thought is relief. At least it's over. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe for part 2.